Or maybe you've had such success in one painting and now you're afraid the next one won't measure up. Well, maybe the way Titian starts a painting, and I'm saying maybe the way Titian starts a painting is perfect for you.
Hey, this is Chris, and we're going through art history, and we're now talking about Titian. I want to say he's Baroque, but I also want to say he's Renaissance, and he's Venetian Renaissance. So Titian's kind of a blend and a mix, but there's very little doubt Titian's going to play a vital role in the next period called Baroque, especially when we contrast what Titian does with Rubens, when Rubens is asked by the king or prince, I'm not sure which, asked to go to Italy and bring the Titian back. Little does the royalty know that Titian's going to unroll the painting and copy it for X amount of months, delaying the delivery of the painting. But that's a different story. So let me show you what Titian does and what happens with this. You have to look at egg tempera, gold leaf painting, and paintings from 1000 AD to around 1450. And the Italians call it disegno. Disegno is when you're carefully designing the page with line, pattern, shape, color, and texture. In fact, as the art world is starting to use oil paint, there's a group of Sienese artists like Simone Martini, who is just absolutely beautiful. What he does with his art is he chooses to stay in a medium such as egg tempera and gold leaf with these patterns and textures because it's his form of meditation and worship to God. And he's not interested in this faster, more powerful oil painting. That's where we come in and what Titian introduces. So let me start over and show you a brief history of disegno without going into it. So imagine you're designing, and I'll do that maybe here at the bottom. You're designing a canvas and you have these, so here's my painting, and you have these columns you're going to put in, and then you're going to put some angels here. And then you're going to use little dots in these areas, and you're going to use pattern to get me to look here. And then you might use stripes on the clothes. I've never seen anything like this, so just ignore that. And you're using different elements of art to move the viewer's eye. Then you might have an area of color and an area of color. And then you might carve into the gold leaf, making these thin lines that are carved in of rays from heaven. And then maybe you've painted this sculpture piece or something, or a person here, Mary. And then maybe you carved into it other patterns in different places. And you spend months developing the painting using pattern, color, shape, and texture. Because you see, with gold leaf, you have to carve into the wood, and then you lay the gold over it and it indents. Now you can also carve into the gold over the top and do this as well. And there's some painting underneath, there's painting over it. There's a lot of different gold leaf techniques, but it's labor intense. But you're not doing it to finish. You're doing it for the love of it. And for that alone, I think that's beautiful. And we call that disegno. Now, fast forward, Titian's thinking, I sort of don't paint that way. And I discovered a new way. And that is, what if on my painting, I decided I'm just going to take my hand and dip it in the paint. So imagine this is brownish orange, and this is Adam and Eve, and I'm going to just block in the tree above here with a big rag or my hand mixed into the paint. There's no careful designing this page to make this look like this. This is me saying, oh yeah, I'm going to put a tree off the form here doing this, and I'm going to darken this area, and put the tree in the middle, and then I'll put in some clouds in the background, and I think I need a different image, then I start to draw my figure in here with some paint. I kind of glob in my guy, and I glob in my guy, and I do Leonardo's sfumato and let my edges disappear. I'll make it lighter behind it here by the tree. I'll lighten this area of the tree behind it, and right here, and then here she is, Eve, and I'll make it lighter than the background, and he starts designing his page as he goes, and he's working into it. And actually, so as we talked about the Zeno and this careful, deliberative drawing, now all of a sudden Titian comes up with another idea. He said, with the idea of mannerism and this elongating of brushstrokes creating a psychological message, well, what if I'm talking like I talked to Titian himself. What if I just kind of smeared the charcoal or the paint around and evoked the mood of the darkness? Set that, what we call today the halftone or the notan, the percentages of light and dark that tell the story. What if the halftone and notan word actually begins with Titian? So let's start and see what happens. So this picture, I'm going to do it small. I need a border to keep it small. That way I know it's here. So here she is. Looks like my guy's going to be bigger than my picture. Something like that. You get the idea. Okay. So with Titian, what if he says, I think it's going to be real dark, like it's a certain time of the day, and I'm just going to put in that darkness right now. And that way, when I paint the figures, I'll know how dark and light to make their legs and how dark to make them. And so they're all in shadow right now, and he's shadow. So don't forget the chiaroscuro and lighter than the dark background is not going out of play here. This is something you're gonna follow, and you're gonna see it in spades with Velasquez. So what if he's starting to let the body of the guy disappear into the background and part of her face, and now he's getting a little bolder and saying, some of her's a little darker than that. It's not so light. And that hand's going up like this into the dark, heavy shadows. And if I leave a lot of white on my edges and I decide to change the composition, then that makes it easier for me to sort of add and I go. And to this day, I wish I would had room there. But to this day, this is something that I do. I leave a lot of space in the middle so I can expand my composition. Okay, so he starts that way, and then he says, okay, I'm going to start to draw her in. And, I start to draw her in, and here she is, and her arm's doing this, and she's going up like that, and the arm and the body's going this way. I'm looking at the monitor. Oh, I didn't send it. I have to look at the monitor this way. And here she is. She's right here, and her legs going this way. And this is darker than the background, and he's starting to blend it in. And now he's darker right here as he goes up. And the hair's darker than the background. And the arms going this way, and there's a space between them, right here. And that leg is coming out. Guess he's holding a dog. And what you're doing is you're developing your painting as you go, and you're just saying, oh yeah, this is pretty, I'm going to make this real strong and dramatic. I don't know if you start medium and gradually work your way up, but what you're doing is by smearing in the background, you're letting figures disappear. You're letting figures just kind of go away, and then you start to hit the lights in a few areas, and you realize, oh yeah, well, don't forget the chiaroscuro thing where her hair is going to be darker than the background. Because here her shoulder is going to be lighter than the background. And, you can cut that thing in.
There's the leg, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere comes your image. In minutes, you can do this in just 10 minutes and start to get your feeling. So Titian is introducing the art world a different way of starting. What if we started with a sketch? What if I didn't start with all these different things? So what if you're like me, and sometimes starting is the hardest thing. Maybe that measuring up, even though my folks loved everything I did, I said to myself, well, you like that, wait till you see the next thing I do, and I raised the bar on myself. So maybe I had it easy and I'm still messed up. Maybe you've had someone have higher expectations of you and it's hard to start. Or maybe you've had such success in one painting and now you're afraid the next one won't measure up. Well, maybe the way Titian starts a painting, and I'm saying maybe the way Titian starts a painting is perfect for you. You start in the middle of the page and you just start playing, see what happens and go from there. We call it art mapping. That's just one small phase. But Titian introduces the world to how to start a different way. So there's Zeno, and there's this beginning of what the art world's going to call colore. And it's about color. Oddly enough, there's no color in Titian's painting. So I don't understand the Italian words and where they come up with this stuff. But I love the idea that there's two ways to do something, that there's not one way to do a painting. There's probably 30 ways or 100 ways. Titian and this bridge to Baroque.